The stars bent and twisted as the massive fleet tore through the fabric of space itself. One moment there was nothing but empty darkness above the blue planet called Earth. The next moment, 300 silver ships appeared in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the distant light of the sun. Admiral Vexthal stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Guardian, his 4 tentacles wrapped around the tactical console as he studied the primitive world below. His species, the Golvani, had protected countless developing civilizations across the galaxy. They had done this for over 10,000 years. It was their sacred duty, their purpose in the universe. And now, this small blue planet needed their help. Admiral, his communications officer, called out, "We are detecting primitive radio signals from the planet's surface. Chemical-based propulsion systems in their orbital space. One small station orbiting the planet. No energy shields. No warp-capable vessels." Vexthal let out a deep sigh through his breathing slits. Another primitive species. Another world that could not defend itself. He had seen this story play out 47 times before in his 300 years of service. The natives would panic. They would fire their crude weapons at his fleet. And then his soldiers would heroically save them from the approaching doom. The Devourer swarm was coming. They had marked this planet for consumption, and the Devourers never changed their minds once they chose a target. They would arrive in approximately 72 standard hours, and when they came, they would strip this world of every living thing. Unless the Galactic Protectorate stopped them. "Open a channel to the planet," Vexthal commanded. "All frequencies. Translate our message into their primary languages." The communication officer pressed several buttons on his console. "Channel open, Admiral." Vexthal cleared his throat and spoke in his most reassuring tone. "Primitive inhabitants of Sol 3, do not be afraid. We are the Galactic Protectorate, guardians of developing civilizations across the cosmos. A great danger approaches your world. The Devourer swarm has marked your planet for consumption. You lack the technology to defend yourselves against this threat. Remain calm. Stay in your homes. We will protect you." He ended the transmission and nodded to himself. That should ease their fears. In his experience, primitive species always responded the same way to such messages. First came denial, then fear, then desperate attempts to help, and finally acceptance and gratitude. But the response that came back was not what he expected. Far below, on the orbital station called Horizon, Director Kim Do-hyun received the alien transmission with a cup of coffee in his hand. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and calm eyes that had seen many things in his 60 years of life. He read the translated message twice, then looked at the woman standing beside him. Park Jisoo was his second in command, a sharp-eyed woman with silver streaks in her black hair. She had spent 30 years in the Deep Space Reconnaissance Division, and there was very little in the universe that could surprise her anymore. "Wow," Jisoo said slowly. "This is interesting." Do-hyun took a long sip of his coffee. "They think we are primitive. Their sensors probably cannot detect our actual technology," Jisoo replied. "Standard galactic scanning methods. We stopped using those frequencies 2 centuries ago specifically because they are too easy to detect. Should we tell them the truth?" Jisoo thought about it for a moment. Her lips curved into a small smile. "Not yet. This could be educational for them." Do-hyun nodded and pressed the communication button on his console. "Attention Galactic Protectorate Fleet. This is Director Kim Do-hyun of Earth Orbital Station Horizon. We have received your message. We appreciate your concern for our safety. We would like to invite your commanding officer to a diplomatic meeting on our planet's surface. Please respond." In the Eternal Guardian, Admiral Vesthal's eye stalks rippled with surprise. The primitive species wanted a diplomatic meeting? That was unusual. On. Most developing civilizations either panicked or denied the reality of alien life altogether. They did not calmly request diplomatic discussions. They seem remarkably composed, his tactical officer observed. Perhaps they did not understand the message? Their translation was accurate. The communications officer replied. They understood perfectly. Vexthel waved a tentacle dismissively. They are in shock. Their tiny minds cannot fully comprehend the danger they face. I will go down personally and explain the situation. Prepare my shuttle. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, passing through white clouds and blue sky until it landed at the Geneva spaceport. Vexthel stepped out onto the landing pad, his ceremonial robes flowing around his six-limbed body, and found a delegation of humans waiting for him. At the front stood Secretary General Yoon Tae-hee, a composed woman in her 60s with perfectly styled gray hair and an expression that revealed nothing. Behind her stood several advisors and scientists, all watching the alien admiral with curious but calm eyes. Welcome to Earth, Admiral Vexthel, Tae said through a translation device. We are honored by your visit. You should be honored, Vexthel replied, not unkindly. We have traveled far to save your species from extinction. You cannot possibly understand the danger that approaches your world. Please, Tae gestured toward a waiting vehicle. Let us discuss this in more comfortable surroundings. They traveled to a meeting room in the United Nations building, where refreshments had been prepared. Vexthel noticed that the humans moved with confidence and ease. They did not tremble. They did not stare at him with fear or wonder. They treated him like any other diplomatic guest. It was strange. Very strange. Admiral, Tae began once they were seated. Please tell us more about this devourer swarm. Vexthel spent 20 minutes explaining the threat. He described the organic ships that traveled through space like living creatures. He told them about the hive mind that controlled billions of individual devourers as if they were a single organism. He showed them holographic images of worlds that had been consumed, stripped of all life until only bare rock remained. The humans listened carefully, nodding at appropriate moments, asking intelligent questions. But they did not seem afraid. This is indeed concerning, Tae said when he finished. And you say your fleet can protect us? Of course, Vexthel replied proudly. We have protected 47 developing worlds from similar threats. Your planet will be the 48th. That is very kind of you, Tae said. But I must ask a question first. Certainly. How exactly did you determine that we are a developing civilization? Vexthel's tentacles twitched slightly. Our sensors detected no warp signatures from your system. No advanced orbital infrastructure. No energy weapons. No, I see, Tae interrupted gently. And your sensors. They operate on quantum resonance frequencies, yes? Standard galactic technology? The Admiral's eye stalks went rigid. How did this primitive human know about quantum resonance scanning technology? Dr. Baek Sujin, a young woman with glasses and a friendly smile, stepped forward from the delegation. We stopped using those frequencies about 200 years ago, Admiral. Too easy to detect. Too easy to deceive. Vexthel felt something cold growing in his stomach. That is not possible. Your species only achieved spaceflight 3 centuries ago. Our records clearly show. Your records show what we wanted them to show, Tae said calmly. We have been aware of the galactic community for a very long time, Admiral. We simply chose not to reveal ourselves. But why? Tae smiled, and for the first time, Vexthel saw something in her eyes that made him very uncomfortable. It was not fear. It was not desperation. It was patience. The patience of a predator that had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Because, she said softly, we wanted to see who would come. And why? Admiral Vexthal realized that he had made a terrible miscalculation. These humans were not primitive at all, and he had just revealed everything about his fleet's capabilities to them. The cold feeling in his stomach grew stronger. Admiral Vexthal's 3 hearts were beating faster than they had in decades. He sat in the meeting room, surrounded by humans who looked at him with calm, knowing eyes. Everything he had believed about this mission was crumbling around him like dust. "I do not understand," he managed to say. "Our scouts observed your world for 2 standard years. We detected no advanced technology, no hidden fleets, nothing but primitive chemical rockets and basic orbital stations." Secretary General Yoon Tae-hee folded her hands on the table in front of her. "Your scouts saw exactly what we wanted them to see, Admiral. Nothing more, nothing less. But the energy signatures alone would be impossible to hide. Any civilization with warp technology produces detectable radiation patterns. Our sensors can identify those patterns from thousands of light years away." Dr. Baek Soo-jin adjusted her glasses and spoke in a patient tone, like a teacher explaining something to a confused student. "Your sensors look for specific types of radiation, Admiral. Specific frequencies. Specific patterns. What happens when a civilization develops different technology? Technology that does not produce those signatures?" Vexthal's tentacles curled inward, a sign of deep distress among his species. "That would require an entirely different approach to faster-than-light travel. A completely separate scientific path from what every known galactic civilization has developed." "Exactly," Soo-jin said with a small smile. "We did not follow your path. We created our own. In orbit above Earth, something was happening that would have shocked any galactic observer. Behind the moon, hidden in its permanent shadow, 17 massive ships began to power up their systems. These were not the crewed vessels that the Protectorate's sensors had detected. These were battle cruisers of the Earth Defense Fleet, each one 3 kilometers long, armed with weapons that had never been used in anger. Captain Kang Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the Silent Thunder, watching his crew prepare for possible action. He was a calm man with steady hands and eyes that had seen combat before. Behind him, Commander Shin Yoonji studied the tactical displays with careful attention. "The Protectorate fleet has not detected us," Yoonji reported. "Their sensors are still focused on Earth's visible infrastructure. Keep our systems cold," Hyun-woo ordered. "We observe only. No hostile action unless directly threatened or commanded by High Command." "Understood, Captain." Yoonji paused for a moment. "Do you think the Admiral understands yet what he walked into?" Hyun-woo allowed himself a slight smile. "I think he's beginning to understand. But the full picture? That will take some time." Back on Earth's surface, that full picture was being revealed piece by piece. Director Kim Do-hyun had joined the meeting via holographic projection, his image flickering slightly as he spoke from the Horizon Station. "Admiral Vexthal," Do-hyun began, "I want you to understand that we do not see you as an enemy. Your intentions appear to be genuinely good. You came here to protect what you believed was a helpless species. That is honorable. Then why the deception?" Vexthal demanded, his confusion turning to frustration. "Why hide your true capabilities? If you are as advanced as you claim, you could have joined the Galactic Protectorate. You could have shared technology and resources. We could have been allies, could we?" Tae-hee asked quietly. "Tell me, Admiral, what happens to the civilizations you protect after the danger passes, after your fleet leaves?" Vexthal hesitated. It was a simple question with a complicated answer. "They are invited to join the Protectorate, of course. They receive the benefits of membership, trade agreements, technological exchange, military protection. And in return? In return, They contribute to the greater good of galactic civilization. They follow protectorate guidelines. They align their governments with protectorate principles. They lose their independence, Do-hyun finished for him. They become part of your empire. Their cultures slowly fade as they adopt your ways. Their governments become branches of your administration. Within a few generations, they are no longer what they were. They are simply more protectorate citizens. Vexthil wanted to argue, but the words stuck in his throat. It was true. He had seen it happen on world after world. The protectorate did not conquer through violence. They conquered through kindness, through protection, through gradual absorption. And now he understood why the humans had hidden themselves. We observed your protectorate for nearly 2 centuries, Tihi explained. We watched how you integrated other species, how their unique qualities slowly disappeared, how their histories became footnotes in your galactic records. We decided that this fate was not acceptable for humanity. So you hid, Vexthil said slowly. You pretended to be primitive while secretly building your own power. We did more than hide. Dr. Chomai-Ray stepped forward. She was a xenobiologist with kind eyes and a sharp mind. We also prepared for threats like the one approaching our world right now. The Devour Swarm? Yes, we encountered them 60 years ago. They attacked our colony on Kepler 442b. Vexthil SI stalks shot upward in shock. You have colonies? On other worlds? 17 of them, Do-hyun said casually. Spread across 4-star systems. The Admiral felt dizzy. His species had been watching the solar system for 200 years. They had detected nothing. No ships leaving. No colonies being established. Nothing but what appeared to be a primitive civilization struggling to reach its own moon. That is impossible, he whispered. We would have seen something. Anything. Admiral, Sujin said gently. Your technology is impressive. Your civilization is ancient and powerful. But you made one critical mistake. You assumed that any advanced species would develop along the same lines as your own. That any starship would look like your starships. That any colony would look like your colonies. We built differently, Myra added. Our ships do not use warp drives. Our colonies do not broadcast on standard galactic frequencies. Our technology is based on principles that your science has not yet discovered. And the Devourers? Vexthil asked. You said they attacked your colony. How did you survive? Mare's expression grew serious. We lost that colony, Admiral. 12 million people. It was the worst day in human history. But we learned from it. We studied the Devourers. We captured samples of their technology. We analyzed their biology, their communication methods, their hive mind structure. And then we developed countermeasures, Do-hyun said. Weapons designed specifically to defeat them. Strategies that exploit their weaknesses. We have been preparing for their return ever since. Vexthil sat in silence for a long moment. His entire understanding of this mission had been turned upside down. He had come here to save a primitive species from extinction. Instead, he had discovered a hidden power that had been growing in secret for centuries. Show me, he finally said. Show me everything. Taehi nodded and activated a holographic display in the center of the table. Images began to appear. Star maps marking human colonies. Shipyards producing vessels that dwarfed Vexthil's own flagship. Defense platforms orbiting distant worlds, capable of destroying entire fleets. Research stations where scientists had studied technologies that the Galactic Protectorate had never imagined. And then the display showed the Earth Defense Fleet, not 17. Ships, hundreds, hidden beneath the oceans. Buried under mountains, concealed in artificial asteroids throughout the solar system. A military force that had been growing in secret for over a century. waiting for the day when humanity would need to reveal itself. "You have been preparing for war," Vexthal said quietly. "We have been preparing for survival," Tihi corrected. "The galaxy is a dangerous place, Admiral. The Devourers are not the only threat. There are empires that would enslave us, civilizations that would destroy us, and yes, protectorates that would absorb us until nothing human remained. We do not want war," Dohyun added. "We never wanted war. But we will not allow ourselves to be helpless. We will not depend on others for our survival. We will protect ourselves." Vexthal looked at the holographic display, at the fleet that could probably destroy his own 300 ships without effort. He thought about the Devourer swarm approaching this system, about the battle that would soon take place. "The Devourers will arrive in less than 70 hours, he said carefully. "What do you intend to do?" Secretary General Yoon Tihi smiled, and for the first time since this meeting began, it was a warm smile without any hidden meaning. "We intend to show you exactly what humanity is capable of, Admiral. And perhaps, after that, we can discuss what true alliance between equals might look like." Vexthal found himself nodding slowly. He had come to protect a primitive species. Instead, he had found something far more interesting. He had found a species that did not need protection at all. 48 hours remained before the Devourer swarm would arrive. Admiral Vexthal had returned to his flagship, but he was no longer the confident commander who had entered this star system. His mind was spinning with everything he had learned, and his 3 hearts had not stopped racing since he left. Earth surface. His officers watched him with concern as he paced the bridge of the Eternal Guardian. In 300 years of service, they had never seen their admiral so disturbed. "Sir," his tactical officer spoke carefully, "should we adjust our defensive formation? If the humans truly possess the capabilities they claim, our current positioning may not be optimal." Vexthal stopped pacing and turned to face the tactical display. 300 protectorate ships hung in space above Earth, arranged in a classic defensive pattern that had protected dozens of worlds over thousands of years. "No," he said finally. "We maintain position, but we observe. And we wait. Wait for what, Admiral? For the humans to show us what they can do." On Earth, preparations were already underway. In the deep underground complex known as Strategic Command, Fleet Admiral Oh Jung-yuk stood before a massive holographic display that showed the entire solar system. He was a stern-faced man in his 50s, with a reputation for calm thinking. Even in the worst situations, around him stood the commanders of Earth's hidden military forces. Captain Kang Hyun-woo had arrived from the Silent Thunder for this meeting, along with Commander Shin Yoon-ji and a dozen other senior officers. They all wore the dark blue uniforms of the Earth Defense Fleet, uniforms that the galaxy had never seen. "The swarm will enter our system in 46 hours, Admiral O began, pointing at the holographic display. "Current estimates suggest approximately 3 million individual Devourer organisms, supported by 12 hive ships and several hundred smaller vessels." Wing Commander Nam Jian studied the display with sharp eyes. She led the elite fighter squadrons known as the Shadow Wings, pilots who had trained their entire lives for exactly this kind of battle. Their approach vector? Standard Devourer pattern. They will sweep through the outer system first, consuming any organic material they detect. Then they will focus on Earth itself. "And the Protectorate fleet?" Captain Hyun-woo asked. "They remain in defensive position above Earth. They still believe they are here to protect us." Admiral O allowed himself a small smile. "We will allow them to observe. After this battle, they will have a very different understanding of human capabilities." In Geneva, Secretary General Yoon Tae-hee was holding her own meeting with Admiral Vexthal via holographic communication. The alien commander's image flickered slightly as he spoke from his ship. Your Admiral O has invited me to observe the coming battle from his command center, Vexthal said. I have accepted. But I must ask, do you truly believe your forces can defeat the Devour Swarm? I have fought them for 200 years. I have seen what they can do. They are relentless. They feel no fear. They never surrender. We know what they are, Admiral, Tihi replied calmly. We have studied them for 6 decades. We have fought them before. And lost. You said they destroyed your colony. Yes, that loss taught us everything we needed to know about the Devourers. Their strengths. Their weaknesses. The patterns of their hive mind. She paused. Admiral, when humans lose a battle, we do not simply grieve. We learn. We adapt. We prepare. We make absolutely certain that we will never lose that same battle again. Vexthal was quiet for a moment. In his experience, most species responded to defeat with fear or denial. They built bigger walls. They hid in deeper bunkers. They hoped that the next threat would pass them by. The humans, it seemed, responded differently. I have read your history files, Vexthal admitted. The ones you allowed us to access. Your species has fought many wars against itself. Too many, Tihi agreed. We are not proud of that history. But you learn from those wars as well. You develop new weapons, new strategies, new ways of thinking about conflict. He paused. I am beginning to understand why you were able to hide from the galaxy for so long. You are not a species that waits for threats. You are a species that prepares for them. That is perhaps the kindest way to describe it, Admiral. 20 hours before the swarm's arrival, the Earth Defense Fleet began to move. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the Silent Thunder, watching as his ship glided out of the moon's shadow along with the other 16 battle cruisers. All ships report ready, Commander Yunji announced. Power systems at full capacity. Weapons charged. Shield generators online. Good, Hyunwoo replied. Signal the fleet. We proceed to Phase 1 positions. Across the solar system, hidden bases began to open. From beneath Earth's oceans, from artificial asteroids in the belt, from buried hangars on the Moon and Mars, ships began to emerge. They moved silently through the darkness of space, their engines producing no detectable radiation, their hulls absorbing rather than reflecting sensor signals. On the Eternal Guardian, Vexthal's tactical officer suddenly straightened in his seat. Admiral, we are detecting something. Multiple contacts. Emerging from... I do not understand these readings. Show me, Vexthal commanded. The tactical display lit up with new signals. First 17, then 50, then 100, then 200. Ships were appearing throughout the solar system, seemingly from nowhere. They were moving in perfect formation, heading toward predetermined positions. Where did they come from? The tactical officer whispered. We have been scanning this system for days. There was nothing there. Vexthal watched the display in silence. The human fleet was beautiful in its precision. Every ship knew exactly where it needed to be. Every movement was coordinated perfectly. This was not the chaotic scrambling of a primitive species facing its first threat. This was a military operation planned down to the smallest detail. They hid them everywhere, his communications officer breathed. On the planet, under the planet, in the asteroids, behind the moons, everywhere we were not looking. No, Vexthal corrected quietly. They hid them everywhere we could not see. Our sensors looked for specific signatures, specific patterns. They built their ships to produce none of those signatures. They created an entire military force that was invisible to galactic technology. Admiral, current count is 517 vessels. No, wait, 530. More are still appearing. On the bridge of the command carrier Horizon's Edge, Admiral O watched the same display with satisfaction. "All ships report ready for combat," he announced to his command staff. "The Devour swarm will arrive in approximately 16 hours. When they enter our system, they will find not a defenseless world, but an army waiting for them." Dr. Cho-Myra stood nearby, checking her data tablet one final time. "The neural virus is prepared, Admiral. Each fighter squadron is equipped with deployment systems. Once we inject it into their hive mind network, the Devourers will experience complete cognitive disruption. Casualties projections? Minimal on our side if everything goes according to plan. We expect the virus to incapacitate approximately 60% of their forces within the first 2 hours. The remaining 40% will be confused and disorganized. Our conventional weapons can handle the rest." Admiral O nodded slowly. 60 years of preparation had led to this moment. Every scientist who had studied the Devourers, every engineer who had built these ships, every soldier who had trained for this battle. Their work was about to be tested. "There is one more thing," Myra added. "The captured hive ships are ready for deployment." This caught the attention of everyone on the bridge. The captured hive ships were humanity's greatest secret weapon. 3 Devour vessels that had been taken during the Kepler 442b disaster. 3 vessels that had been studied, modified, and turned against their former masters. "They will transmit false commands through the Devourer network," Myra explained. "Contradictory orders that will add to the confusion caused by the neural virus. The swarm will not know which commands are real and which are false. They will turn on each other." Admiral O turned to face his command staff. These were the men and women who would lead humanity through its greatest test. They had trained for years. They had sacrificed everything for this moment. "In a few hours, the galaxy will learn what humanity truly is," he said. "We are not victims waiting to be saved. We are not primitives hoping for protection. We are a species that faced extinction and refused to accept it. We are a species that learned from our losses and became stronger. We are a species that will fight for our survival with everything we have." He looked at the tactical display, at the 500 ships now in position throughout the solar system. "Today, we show the Devourers what it means to threaten Earth, and we show the galaxy that humanity asks permission from no one." The officers saluted in unison. The clock continued to count down toward the arrival of the swarm. The Devourer swarm arrived like a living darkness spreading across the stars. 3 million creatures moved as one mind, their organic ships twisting through space with horrible grace. At the center of the swarm, 12 massive hive ships pulsed with sickly green light, broadcasting commands to every creature in the collective. Admiral Vexthal watched from the observation deck of Strategic Command, where he had been invited to witness the battle. Around him stood human officers, their faces calm and focused as they studied tactical displays. No one seemed afraid. No one seemed nervous. They worked with the quiet confidence of people who had prepared for this moment their entire lives. "The swarm has entered the outer system," a technician announced. "Contact in approximately 3 hours at current speed." Fleet Admiral O stood at the central command platform, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. "All ships, maintain positions. Do not engage until my order." Across the solar system, 500 human vessels waited in perfect silence. They floated in the darkness like sleeping predators, their weapons powered but not yet active. Among them, hidden within the human formations, the 3 captured hive ships waited for their moment. On the silent thunder, Captain Kang Hyun-woo felt his heart beating steadily in his chest. He had trained for 30 years for this day. Every simulation, every drill, every sleepless night studying Devourer tactics. All of it had led to this moment. "Captain," Commander Shin Yoonji reported, "the swarm is beginning to spread out. They are following standard consumption patterns. Smaller groups are breaking off to scan for organic material. Let them search, Hyunwoo replied. They will find nothing in the outer system. We made sure of that. It was true. Decades ago, humanity had carefully removed or hidden any sign of life from the outer planets and their moons. The Devourers would find only empty rock and frozen gas. They would grow confused, and then they would push deeper into the system, toward Earth, toward the trap dot in Strategic Command. Admiral Vexthel watched the swarm's movements with growing unease. He had fought these creatures many times. He knew how they behaved, and something about this situation bothered him deeply. Your outer system is empty, he observed. No colonies, no stations, no signs of life. Correct, Admiral O replied without looking away from the display. But you have colonies on other worlds. Why not here? Why leave your home system so empty? Because we wanted the Devourers to come all the way in, O explained. We wanted them to commit their entire force to attacking Earth. We did not want them to be distracted by other targets. Vexthel's eye stalks curled inward. You are using your home world as bait. We are using our home world as a trap. There's a difference. 2 hours later, the swarm had pushed deep into the solar system. They had found no food in the outer regions and were now hungry and eager. The hive mind focused on the blue planet ahead, sensing the billions of life forms waiting to be consumed. The entire swarm began to accelerate toward Earth. They are committed, Dr. Cho Mai-rei announced from her station. The entire swarm is now moving toward Earth. They have no rear guard, no reserve forces. They are throwing everything at us. Exactly as predicted, Admiral O said. All ships, prepare for Phase 1. Shadow Wings, you are clear to launch. Across the fleet, hundreds of fighter craft dropped from their carrier ships. Wing Commander Nam Jian led the first squadron, her small vessel cutting through space like a silver blade. Behind her, 300 of the best pilots in human history followed in perfect formation. Shadow Wings, this is Wing Commander Nam, she transmitted. Our target is the central cluster of hive ships. We deploy the neural virus directly into their communication centers. Once their coordination breaks down, the main fleet will engage. Everyone clear on the mission? 300 acknowledgements came back instantly. Then let us show these creatures what humanity thinks of their hunger. Shadow Wings, attack. The fighters accelerated to incredible speed, weaving through the outer edges of the swarm like fish swimming through water. The Devourers tried to intercept them, but the human vessels were too fast, too agile. They slipped through gaps in the enemy formation, dodging organic missiles and energy beams with skill that seemed almost supernatural. Admiral Vexthel watched in amazement. His own fighters were considered among the best in the galaxy, but these human pilots were something else entirely. They flew with perfect coordination, each one knowing exactly where the others would be, anticipating and supporting each other without any visible communication. How are they doing that? He asked. They are flying as one unit, yet I detect no communication between them. Training, Admiral O replied simply. They have practiced together for 10 years. They know each other so well that they do not need to speak. Wing Commander Jian reached the first hive ship and launched her payload. A small silver cylinder struck the organic hull and burrowed inside. Within seconds, the neural virus was spreading through the ship's biological systems, infecting the neural tissue that connected it to the greater hive-mind. One by one, the Shadow Wings struck their targets. 11 of the 12 hive ships were infected within 20 minutes. The 12th was destroyed by a direct attack when its defenses proved too strong for infiltration. And then the chaos began. The Devourer swarm had operated as one mind for millions of years. Every creature knew its place. Every ship followed the commands of the hive. But now, those commands were breaking down. The neural virus was causing the hive mind to send contradictory orders: attack, retreat, defend, consume. The individual creatures did not know how to process these conflicting instructions. Swarm cohesion is failing, Myray reported with satisfaction. They are beginning to turn on each other. Admiral O nodded. All ships, Phase 2, engage the enemy. Priority targets are the remaining hive ships and the largest organic vessels. Break them apart. 500 human ships surged forward as one. The Silent Thunder led the first assault group, its massive energy cannons tearing through Devourer vessels like they were made of paper. Captain Hyunwoo stood calmly on his bridge, issuing orders with precise clarity as his ship carved a path of destruction through the confused enemy. Target that cluster of bioships, he commanded. Fire. The Silent Thunder unleashed a barrage that destroyed 17 enemy vessels in a single volley. Beside it, the Iron Resolve and the Unbroken Spirit added their own firepower, creating a wall of destruction that nothing could survive. But the humans were not relying on firepower alone. From the rear of the human formation, the 3 captured hive ships activated their systems. They began broadcasting false commands through what remained of the Devourer network. These commands told the swarm that human ships were actually allies. They told the swarm that other Devourer ships were enemies. They turned the creatures against their own kind. Admiral Vexthal watched the tactical display in stunned silence. The swarm was destroying itself. Half of their forces were now attacking the other half, while human ships methodically eliminated the disorganized survivors. "This is not a battle," he whispered. "This is an execution." "It is both," Admiral O replied. "These creatures destroyed one of our colonies. They killed 12 million of our people. We have been planning this response for 60 years. Every weapon you see was designed specifically to kill Devourers. Every tactic was developed to exploit their weaknesses. This is what happens when you threaten humanity and give us time to prepare." The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, not a single Devourer remained alive in the solar system. 3 million creatures had been destroyed, along with all 12 hive ships and every support vessel. The largest threat the galaxy had known was gone, eliminated by a species that the universe had thought was primitive. Human losses were minimal. 23 ships damaged, 7 destroyed, 412 crew members killed. It was a tragedy for those families, but it was also an incredible victory. In strategic command, Admiral O turned to face Vexthal. "The battle is over, Admiral. Earth is safe. Not because of your protection, but because of our own strength." Vexthal could only nod. He had witnessed something that would change his understanding of the universe forever. These humans were not primitives. They were not weaklings waiting to be saved. They were a species that had faced extinction and refused to accept it. And now, the galaxy would have to deal with the consequences of that truth. 3 days had passed since the battle. The wreckage of the Devourer swarm floated through the solar system like a graveyard of organic debris, slowly being collected by human salvage teams for study and disposal. Earth's skies had returned to their normal blue, and the people of the planet celebrated a victory that most of them had never known they were fighting for. Admiral Vexthal stood in the observation deck of the Horizon Station, looking down at the beautiful blue world below. He had not slept since the battle, his mind too full of thoughts and questions to allow rest. Everything he had believed about the universe had changed in those 4 hours of combat. Director Kim Do-yoon stood beside him, a cup of tea in his hands. The human looked tired but satisfied, the kind of exhaustion that came from years of worry finally coming to an end. "You could have revealed yourselves at any time," Vexthal said quietly. "You could have joined the galactic community as a major power. You could have had allies, resources, protection. And what kind of protection would that have been?" Do-hyun asked. The Protectorate offers safety in exchange for obedience. You protect primitive species by absorbing them into your civilization. By the time you are finished helping them, they have forgotten who they were. Vexthale wanted to argue, but he could not. He had seen it happen too many times. Unique cultures flattened into conformity. Ancient traditions forgotten in favor of Protectorate standards. Species that had been proud and independent reduced to obedient members of a galactic machine. We watched your Protectorate for a very long time, Do-hyun continued. We saw the good you did. You saved many worlds from destruction. But we also saw the cost of that salvation. We decided that we would rather face the darkness alone than lose ourselves in your light. You risked your entire species on that decision. Yes, but it was our decision to make. Our risk to take. That is what freedom means, Admiral. Admiral, the freedom to succeed or fail on our own terms. Below them, the human fleet was returning to its hidden bases. Ships descended into the oceans of Earth, disappeared into artificial asteroids, vanished into underground hangars on the moon. Within a few days, there would be no sign that humanity possessed any military power at all. The galaxy would see only the same primitive species they had always seen. Will you continue to hide? Vex the last. After everything that has happened? That depends on what happens next, a new voice answered. Secretary General Yoon Tae-hee entered the observation deck, accompanied by Dr. Baek Soo-jin and Dr. Cho Myrae. The three women had been the public face of Earth's diplomacy during this crisis, and they moved with the confidence of people who had just achieved something historic. Admiral, Tae-hee said, we have been discussing the future relationship between humanity and the Galactic Protectorate. We have some proposals we would like you to consider. I am listening. First, we want to make clear that we have no hostile intentions toward your civilization. We hid because we wanted to develop in peace, not because we planned to attack anyone. Our military exists purely for defense. I believe you, Vexthal said. After what I have seen, I understand why you needed such defenses. Second, Tae-hee continued, we are willing to establish diplomatic relations with the Protectorate, but these relations must be between equals. We will not accept membership in your organization. We will not follow your guidelines or adopt your standards. We will trade with you. We will share information. We may even fight alongside you if our interests align. But we will remain independent. Vexthal considered this carefully. The Protectorate had never encountered a species that rejected membership while also possessing the power to enforce that rejection. His superiors would not be pleased. There would be debates and arguments and political complications, but he had seen the battle. He had watched 3 million devourers destroyed in 4 hours by a species his people had thought was primitive. He knew that humanity could not be forced to do anything they did not choose to do. I will present your proposal to my government, he said finally. I cannot promise they will accept it. We understand, Tae-hee replied. But there is one more thing. She activated a holographic display, and an image appeared showing a beautiful green world orbiting a distant star. Cities gleamed on its surface, and starships orbited above its atmosphere. This is Kepler 442c, Tae-hee explained. Our first successful colony outside the solar system. We would like to invite you to visit it. Not as a representative of the Protectorate, but as our guest. We want you to see what humanity has built when left to develop on our own. Vexthal studied the image. The colony was clearly advanced, with technology that matched or exceeded anything the Protectorate possessed. But there was something different about it. The architecture was not based on any galactic standard. The ships did not follow any design he recognized. Everything was uniquely human. You developed all of this in only 3 centuries, he said with wonder. 3 centuries of complete focus, Do-hyun explained. We did not have the Protectorate's resources or knowledge. But we also did not have their limitations. We did not have to follow their rules or adopt their methods. We created our own path through the stars. Dr. Sujin stepped forward, her young face bright with enthusiasm. Admiral, human science is very different from galactic science. We approach problems from angles that your civilization never considered because you already had established solutions. In some areas, we are behind you. In others, we are far ahead. An exchange of knowledge could benefit both our peoples. If we cooperate as equals, Myra added. Not as protectors and protected. Not as advanced and primitive. As partners working together toward common goals. Vextel was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his 300 years of service. He thought about all the species he had protected, and all the species that had lost their identities after being saved. He thought about what the Protectorate might have become if it had encountered more species like humanity. Species that could stand on their own feet. You understand that you have made everything more complicated, he said finally. The galaxy was simple when humanity was primitive. Now you are a power that cannot be ignored. There will be some who fear you. Some who will want to destroy you before you grow even stronger. We know, Tihi replied calmly. We have been preparing for that possibility for a very long time. But we hope that it will not come to conflict. We hope that the galaxy can learn to see us as friends rather than threats. And if the galaxy refuses to learn? Dayan smiled, but there was steel in his eyes. Admiral, humanity survived ice ages and plagues and world wars and the Devourer Swarm. We have rebuilt ourselves from destruction more times than we can count. If the galaxy threatens us, we will survive. We always survive. We would rather have peace, Tihi added quickly. We would rather have cooperation and friendship and mutual benefit. But we will not beg for these things. We will not sacrifice our identity to achieve them. We will be who we are, and the galaxy will have to accept that. Lexdale looked out the observation window one last time. Earth hung in the darkness of space, blue and beautiful, seemingly peaceful. But he now knew what lay beneath that peaceful surface. A species that had faced extinction and laughed. A civilization that had hidden its power until the moment it was needed. A people who would fight for their survival with every weapon at their disposal. I will return to my government with your proposals, he said. I will recommend that they accept them. Not because I believe they will, but because I believe they should. Humanity has earned the right to stand as equals in this galaxy. He turned to face the human delegation. For the first time since arriving in this solar system, he offered them a gesture of respect that was used among his people only for those considered true equals. Your species threatened us when we came to protect you, he said. You laughed when we offered to save you. At the time, I thought this was the arrogance of primitives who did not understand their own weakness. He paused. I now understand that it was the confidence of a species that knew exactly what it was. And I find that I respect you for it. Secretary General Yoon Tae-hee smiled and returned the gesture as best she could with her human body. Welcome to the new universe, Admiral, she said. One where humanity is ready to take its place among the stars. As equals. As partners. And if necessary, as a warning to anyone who thinks we are easy prey. Outside the observation window, a single human battlecruiser decloaked briefly, its massive form visible for just a moment before it vanished again into the darkness between stars. It was a reminder, a promise, a statement of what humanity was capable of. Admiral. Vexthil watched it disappear and felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Hope. For a galaxy that suddenly seemed much more interesting than it had been. Before, the future would not be simple. There would be challenges and conflicts and difficult decisions. But for the first time in millennia, There was a new voice in the cosmic conversation. A voice that would not be silenced. A voice that would not be absorbed. A voice that would speak for itself on its own terms, forever. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same.